Risk management is performed in detail, both quantitatively and financially during the detailed planning phase. However, the process of risk identification and management should begin as soon as possible so that the findings can be taken into account when generating the project's work plan and budget estimates and when deciding whether to approve the project or not. Risk identification must be undertaken by project stakeholders in cooperation with professionals and managerial authorities from various disciplines in order to ensure that the entire range of potentially detrimental events is taken into account. This process should be based on both previous experience and the specific project's data. An ideal basis for risk identification processes in a new project is a list of common risks combined with a list of risks generated in similar projects in the past. In addition to identifying all the potential risks, the potential effects of these risks on the project and its objectives, as well as any possible ways to handle them, must all be specified. A risk has a root cause, which should be searched for as part of developing the risk management plan. Identifying the root cause of each risk requires the isolation of each possible cause and the description of each risk event with relation to its causes. For example, a concern that the management's commitment to the project is too low may have several root causes. Each of those needs to be examined and requires a different management plan. Low commitment level due to a competing project will require a different response than low commitment level due to the changes in management. Therefore, a risk event must be identified and defined as specifically as possible to facilitate developing an appropriate response strategy. A significant factor in the process of identifying risks is the project uncertainty level, which affects the ability to identify and evaluate potential risks. There are known events for which the odds and impact on the project are predictable since they have happened before. These are the known risks, the known knowns, if you will. Then there are known events for which the impact on the project cannot be predicted. These are the semi-known risks or the known unknowns. Finally, there are events that cannot be predicted at all, although this does not mean these events are not lurking just below the surface, waiting to appear suddenly. These are the unknown risks, the unknown unknowns, which represent the greatest threat to the project. The process of risk identification must be thorough and all-encompassing. Experts from a variety of disciplines should be asked to weigh in on the subject in order to ensure maximum possible coverage of all events that might pose a risk to the project. Identifying the risks is done using the project's data, including contracts and agreements under which the project operates, and the project plan document, which includes project work plan, project scope, quality and control documents, and any other project document that already exists. It is highly advisable to employ risk lists from previous similar projects too. A true risk is a future event, one that has not happened. If it has already occurred and has negatively affected the project, we are dealing with a problem that must be solved, but it's not a risk. An uncertain event. If it is certain that this event will take place, then it is a constraint and must be dealt with within the work plan. A specific, not a general event. Concern over potential manpower shortage is a general description that cannot be addressed. However, concern over a potential construction workers shortage during project construction describes a specific event that can be addressed. A description of the root cause of the event rather than the result of the event. Concern over potential construction workers shortage during project construction due to more lucrative jobs in oil field describes the root cause of the risk event. A spontaneous event, external to the project, over which there is no direct control. Events that are the result of internal factors are either defined as constraints or as problems and must be handled within the project control and communication channels. A good composition of a risk statement might be fear of impact due to event. For example, fear of losing the contents of your house or office due to fire, or fear of losing the contents of your house or office due to flood, or fear of losing the contents of your house or office due to burglary. These are in fact three different risks. Another way to compose a risk statement is if then. For example, if someone will break in my house, then I might lose some of my stuff. Identified risks must be classified into categories so they can be tracked and reported on. It is best if the category list is brief and shareable across many projects, a practice that will enable cross-project comparison and study. A person should be assigned to track each risk category so that every part of the risk list is always the focus of an appropriate managerial or professional entity, ensuring early detection of new risks and changes to existing risks as they occur. Some common risks in the project are: 1. Lack of management's commitment to the project. 2. Low involvement of key stakeholders in the project. 3. Lack of resources vital to the project. 4. Client expectation gap. 5. Anxiety over using new and unfamiliar technology. A special technique for identifying new risks in a project is called a pre-mortem, analysis before the death of the project. Participants in this technique are asked to imagine that the project ended in failure and that they are now performing a post-mortem on it in order to determine what caused its failure. As part of this process, participants are asked to come up with what-if scenarios involving significant project disasters and failures, and then devise methods to avoid them. This brainstorming process of envisioning the future and then returning back in time stimulates changes in participants' thought processes brought on by this time travel and contributes significantly to the identification of real risks facing the project. So, in this lecture, we have learned what true risks are and how to identify and classify them, and introduced a special technique for identifying risks. In the next lecture, we'll learn how to assess risks.